welcome to our vlog series. So my name's Dr. Jackie Tyree, and I'm joined today by Dr. Jane Waters-Davies, and we're going to talk today a little bit about one of the final parts of our research. So we're going to talk about something today called Work Package 3. You'll have seen in my other vlogs that I'm doing with my colleagues that this is sort of the end part of the project, but it links very much in the earlier elements of the project that we've worked on. When we say work package, that just means a part of a project. So I'm really looking forward to talking to you, Jane, about this. And so I'm going to pass over to you to tell us a little bit about this bit of the Children's Participation in Schools project.
Brilliant. Thanks ever so much, Jackie, and thanks for the opportunity. So as Jackie said, Work Package 3 is the final part of the project, and I'm leading that package with a number of colleagues from the programme, from the team. You will have seen them on the other vlogs. I work in UWTSD, University of Wales Trinity St David, but as you know, we work across all this lovely collaboration of universities. So Work Package 3 is the final part of the project, and we are bringing the learning that's arisen from Work Package 1 and Work Package 2 into the context of initial teacher education. So we're interested in how we might embed participatory pedagogies into the ITE programme, ITE being initial teacher education, and that's the programme that new entrants into the teaching profession must take in order to gain qualified teacher status. So we're thinking about how might we ensure that these new entrants, these new teachers coming into our schools already feel confident and competent and knowledgeable about children's participation, children's participative rights, and how they might support those rights through undertaking participatory pedagogies. So that's broadly what this package is about. Do you want to, shall I carry on, Jackie?
Well, I was just going to actually ask Jane so you said about taking the learning from Work Package 1 and 2 and putting it into the context of this one from a partnership for initial teacher educators. I think it might be worth explaining for those listening that within Work Package 1, we just looked at the kind of the legal and policy framework. And in Work Package 2, we worked with a small group of teachers who are working currently as teachers. So I guess that's where the distinction lies, isn't it? It's taking that work with those previous participants and with the legislation and policy and looking at what that looked like, as you say, for initial teacher education. So I don't know whether there's anything else you want to say about that or whether I can ask another question.
Well, I could carry on, but you asked the question and they'll probably all blend in together.
So we've covered it a little bit already, but the participants in this work package, as we call it, this section of the research, what are you doing with those participants, those initial teacher educators or initial teacher trainees, sorry? What is it that you're doing? How are you collecting data from them? Because we often in research talk about, we're doing research with, but what does that actually look like? How are you collecting that data?
Okay, so I'm going to go back a little bit before I answer that question to say you're absolutely right about Work Package 1. That enables us to tell our ITE, our initial teacher education students, it allows us to make that really visible that they have a role to ensure, like legally, to ensure that young children are accessing and experiencing their participation rights. So that's what Work Package 1 really helped us understand. It helped us understand the position of young children's rights within the curriculum for Wales, for example, and within foundation learning in particular. And then Work Package 2, the learning from those teachers who have already grappled with what does it mean to play out young children's participation within the school context. We've had teachers in Work Package 2 grappling with those ideas and considering what that means for their pedagogy. So we're going to invite them to talk to a group of, and this is the answer to your question, a group of ITE students and also their teacher educators. So in any initial teacher education provider, in any partnership in Wales, there are teacher educators who who work and sit in universities, and there are teacher educators who work and sit in schools, because ITE is a partnership. The providers are partners. So we're working with within one partnership. We're working with the students, the teacher educators from school and teacher educators from university, and bringing them together, and we're going to present them with our findings to date and the kind of ask them to think about where there are opportunities within the ITE programme, maybe to enhance, develop or extend the provision to ensure that participatory pedagogies has a much higher profile. And the reason that we know it needs a higher profile is we have already undertaken a series of focus groups. So this academic year, in fact, since between March and May this year, 2024, we've undertaken a series of focus groups where we've talked to ITE students and teacher educators just to explore how comfortable they are really with this notion of children's participation rights and how that plays out in the classroom. And what we've found, we haven't undertaken detailed analysis yet, but our initial analysis and from being part of those conversations, we've found that there's a lot of room for improvement in terms of just the visibility, confidence and expertise in this area. So we know that there is room for improvement in the ITE programmes. What we don't want to do is say to our ITE providers, oh, you've got to do this as well, because they're already really busy. There's loads going on in initial teacher education. It's a really packed, busy programme. But what we want to do is work with students and say, where might there be opportunities just to strengthen or reposition some of the learning that you're undertaking and the experiences that you're having in school? How might we reframe those and develop this notion of participatory pedagogies within the programme? So I think that answers your question. I tend to rant and can go on forever about this. So I think it's really exciting. But I think that answers your question. Yeah. So we've had students, teacher educators already in focus groups, and we're going to have a series of 3 discursive workshops in the coming academic year. And that's where we're going to gather our data, but also undertake this process of exploring what key messages we might be able to draw out of that work. It is really collaborative, actually. This part of the project is highly collaborative because we are asking a group of students and teacher educators to work with us in order to really explore these issues. And we want to come out with a series of suggestions, recommendations, observations that we might feed back into ITE partnerships across Wales. And we know from our outcomes in Work Package 1, where we worked with, there was a survey, the survey of ITE providers indicated that actually they would quite enjoy and like to have some guidance and advice in this area. So we're hoping to close that loop and feed our learning back in.
That sounds really exciting and
yeah, it is
some really interesting work. And I think it's interesting you said about kind of confidence coming out of those focus groups as well. So I've been involved in Work Package 2, and again, you know, the final analysis isn't completed, but the indicative findings there are also linking other things as well, but also linked to this idea of kind of confidence. And I think that's a really interesting one, and it'll be fascinating to talk in those discursive workshops to those students, their education leaders and those in practice about how do they want this confidence that they feel may be missing to be supported. So I think that would be fascinating to see what comes out. So thanks ever so much for that overview, Jane. Yeah, really, really clear. I was just wondering if you could tell our audience why this research is important. I think you've kind of touched on it a little bit, but if you could just maybe clarify and explain more in a bit more detail why this bit of the research is important.
Well, in Wales, we've got a new curriculum. Our curriculum for Wales is a very, very young curriculum. Those who've been involved in the development might feel it's been around forever, but it really hasn't. It's a very young curriculum. And we know, and we are part of this as those who work in universities in teacher education and professional learning, we know there's a lot more learning to do. And we know there's a lot more unpacking to do related to the curriculum for Wales, and particularly what it means to ensure that children are meeting the 4 purposes and indeed having experience of the cross-cutting themes, of which human rights education is one. And we know from our work so far that actually that the teaching profession has had a lot to deal with in terms of it's almost like rebalancing in some way the way in which pedagogy and curriculum is defined and created in schools. There's a huge shift so that teachers have become curriculum makers. That's a big responsibility and a new responsibility for those teachers to take on. And we know from the outset that those in initial teacher education were expected to be part of the change process and to bring the knowledge and the understanding of the new curriculum and its intentions into practice. We know that that was part of the policy, if you like, to support the change process. So ensuring that our new teachers are confident, and it's not just confidence, it's that they're able to speak the language of children's rights and children's participation to enable that change to happen, so they can talk about how they're engaging children, not just children's voice, but children's decisions in their day-to-day pedagogic choices. And we know that that has not yet filtered into schools, because schools have not been able to take that idea on as well as everything else. But we also know that some schools are already considering this kind of approach to pedagogy and indeed curriculum making, particularly with their very young children. And we're looking to ensure that we have confident, competent, capable new teachers who can speak this language, who speak the language of children's rights, who speak the language of human rights education, who understand how they can make pedagogic choices that ensure not only are the children developing and learning to their greatest potential, but that development and learning is underpinned by children understanding and experiencing their participative rights particularly.
Thanks, Jane. I think you've outlined why it's important really clearly. There were lots of different messages, and there's so many things that link back to the other work we've done. I mean, even going back as far as, I think it's 2017, when which is some of the work that actually triggered off this whole research project with some of the research team that are still involved, where we actually said that, you know, children's rights broadly are very patchy, and participative rights in particular are quite patchy in terms of how they're implemented. There's a lot of variation in how that is undertaken in practice, and I think it's interesting that we are unsurprisingly still seeing that now. And it might be that hopefully one of the things that this project can do in the long run, fingers crossed, is have some influence on making sure that all schools get something more to support them, and what that will come out of this work package, I guess.
Absolutely.
So thank you very much for that. I think just to finish us off, because we have only a small amount of time, and we want these vlogs to be nice and succinct for everyone. It sounds like a really exciting work package. I can't wait to see what happens and to see the findings. But just tell us a little bit about when this phase starts and when you expect there to be some findings that we can share with our network members and the broader public.
Well, we've undertaken the focus groups already, and we already, as I said earlier, have indicative findings, but those will be properly analysed and really deeply considered, probably by early to mid-autumn. So we're hoping that by kind of September, October of 2024, we'll have some concrete findings from the focus groups. The discursive workshops are taking place September and then in the spring of 2025. So there'll be ongoing analysis, and we're hoping that by early summer 2025, we'll have indicative findings. By late summer 2025, we'll have some concrete findings. And then for academic year 25-26, we'll be able to be feeding those key messages and sharing those with our IT colleagues and indeed IT students of the day, etc., and trying to get our messages out as widely as we can.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Jane, for joining me today. Just to say, hopefully you'll come back and have another chat with me as we go into that work package, when we have maybe some initial findings from those discursive workshops. It'd be really good to kind of start to get some of the ideas that are coming out in the public domain.
Absolutely, 100%. Thanks for the opportunity.
No worries. Thank you, Jane.
Thanks. Bye-bye.